Howdy freeze dryers, welcome back to the Live Life Simple Kitchen. Today we are using a new camera, so hopefully your freeze drying viewing experience will be even better. And to kick off our new camera experience, we're gonna make a couple videos out of this same video. So today we are doing a 2-for-1. We're gonna be freeze drying some chickpeas or garbanzo beans today, so you're gonna need to load up on those. But we're gonna make an alternative flour using garbanzo beans or chickpeas, and then we're gonna take the aquafaba, which is the liquid that these are in, and make some aquafaba marshmallows. So that should be really interesting. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, this liquid that the beans sit in is called aquafaba. And normally this is something that would go to waste, but there's actually a lot of different uses for aquafaba. So separate all of the liquid from the beans. I'm gonna do 6 cans of garbanzo beans because I wanna try the garbanzo beans whole, and then I also want to try them minced before we freeze dry to see which one will powder better in the end. So we're going on to pre-cut parchment. We'll see how far 3 cans gets us. Obviously the aquafaba thing will not apply to you if you are making chickpeas as a raw bean and boiling them. Looks like 3 15-ounce cans is just about the right amount for a small freeze dryer tray. The second 3 cans we're gonna just zip through the food processor just for maybe 15-20 seconds, something like that, until we can just break them down a little bit farther. If you process things down smaller before you freeze dry, if you're going for a powder in the end especially, it will freeze dry a little faster. It will also powder a little bit better at the end. But if you're doing large quantities or whatever and you just want to go straight into the freeze dryer with whole garbanzo beans, then we're gonna see if you can do that as well. If you're ever wondering why something will freeze dry faster when it is cut up, it's because there's more surface area for moisture to escape. There's more surface area that's under pressure, getting cold, getting warm, and under vacuum. And that is not always true across the board. Some foods, it seems like they will just take the same amount of time no matter what you do to them. And we may find that chickpeas are one of those items. Chickpeas are used for hummus, so when you blend them or food process them, they actually start turning into almost a paste-like consistency, and that may or may not help with speeding up the freeze drying process. So 6 15-ounce cans of garbanzo beans. Just want to see for reference how much aquafaba that gives us. There's 2 cups, 2.5 cups. We'll go a little more on here. It's going to give us about 5 cups of aquafaba. That's going to give us a lot of aquafaba marshmallows. So we'll turn this into marshmallows, and we're going to do that next. And for that, you're going to need some agar powder. You're going to need some cream of tartar. You're going to need some vanilla, some sugar, and a stand mixer or hand blender that will do a high speed. We're going to start with 1 cup of aquafaba, and we're going to put this in the mixer, the stand mixer. And before we mix this, we're going to add 1/2 teaspoon of cream of tartar, and then we're going to mix or whip this for about 6 minutes. It should become very fluffy in that time. While that's mixing, we're going to take 1 1/3 cups of water and then 2 tablespoons of our agar powder. We're going to mix it together and bring it up to a boil. This is going to make a simple syrup to add at the end of the process. We're going to boil that for 3 minutes. Then we're going to add 2.5 cups of sugar and then boil for another 3 minutes. You're going to want to whisk this the entire time. You don't want this to burn to the bottom of the pan. All right, now we're gonna add 1/4 cup of vanilla, and you can see that this is fluffed up quite a bit. After our vanilla goes in, we're gonna whip this for another 3 or 4 minutes. Now we're gonna take our mixer down to a low speed, and we're gonna dump our simple syrup in slowly while this is mixing. And you'll notice it's gonna get a little bit more shiny than it was before. So now you can see it has that texture that we're looking for, very marshmallow-like. All right, after this has whipped for about 30 seconds, you're gonna want to quickly put this onto a freeze dryer pan. So if you wanted flavored marshmallows, you could add different flavors, cinnamon, cocoa powder, whatever, while you're mixing it. After you get them in the pan, we're gonna drop some dividers in. That will actually give us our marshmallow shape. And I was going back and forth whether or not I wanted to pre-freeze this, but I think because this has so much sugar, it's very high sugar content, we're definitely going to want to freeze this, and hopefully I did not fill my trays up too far. That's why I do this before you do, and then I can make mistakes that you will not have to make. Marshmallows are frozen. You can see now that they are very marshmallowy looking. Looks very much like the marshmallow puff that you buy in a jar. And as I put our chickpeas in, take a minute to subscribe to Live Life Simple. Click the bell to get notifications, thumbs up, do all that good stuff. And take a minute to check out freeze drying supplies. Retired at 40's freeze drying group on Facebook and MeWe. And you can check us out on Instagram and X at OG Freeze Dryer. These are going into our Harvest Right freeze dryer. If you want to check out specs, pricing, info, things like that, you can find a link down in the description of this video. And now we're going to find out if we can bake with some chickpea flour and consume some freeze-dried Aquafaba marshmallows. After 32 hours of anticipation, I think we have our finished product, and I think everything looks like it did pretty well. We have our ground up chickpeas, we have our whole chickpeas, and then we have all kinds of Aquafaba marshmallows. You have to ever so carefully remove these dividers, but they'll stay in one piece once you get them out of the tray. But if you have pre-cut parchment, these come out in a nice cube. Very similar texture to freeze-dried marshmallows. And I don't want to say they're better for you, but they're not made out of what marshmallows are made out of. If you're curious about that, I would look it up. It's kind of gross. Next, I'm going to take these chickpeas and run them through the food processor and try and make our flour out of them. Start with the whole chickpeas first. That looks pretty great, actually. And I don't see much difference. Let's put them in a container and we'll compare them. Side by side, that's the whole chickpea, and that is the chickpea that was kind of minced down before we freeze dry it. I don't see with the naked eye a whole lot of difference. And this ended up being a complete no waste video because we used the chickpeas, we used the Aquafaba that they're packaged in, the liquid for marshmallows. Both turned out really well, and stay tuned for a YouTube Shorts. I'm gonna actually try and bake something with this chickpea flour so we can see if it works as well as something that you would buy from the store. In the meantime, remember to live life simple, and we'll catch you next week.